Hey man, how's it going?
Howdy doody, not too bad. Happy Thursday.
No, not Thursday. I mean, it is Thursday, but it won't be Thursday for the people watching this. So,
Fine. Happy new cast, people.
happy new day. Yes. Howdy doody to you as well. Welcome everyone to Bite My Shiny Metal Cast. Season 2 of episode 15, a clone of my own. And I focus on a little bit with the professor and the surrounding family. Actually, I guess it's kind of the whole family there. Um, yeah. What do you think of this episode? This is like we're nearing the end of season 2. We've established a lot of the characters. We get a lot of more backstory now. What do you think?
I like it because it's a little more lore into the professor. He's not just some old kook who's just kooky. It actually
Yeah.
goes into him a little more. I think it's actually one of two this season, at least at the end here. We got this one and then Mother's Day, which even does better character development for him.
That's right. Yeah, that one's coming up a little bit later, so we have more for the professor along the way. And I do like the Mother's Day one, but you're right. I do like this one. I think there's a nice little ring of information, and we get some more background or backstory to this professor and why he is who he is and where he comes from a little bit. And it's knowing what we know about the future of the show as well with the professor and how he where his parents come from and everything. I think it adds a little bit more to that too. But it's interesting to see like how far back, 2001 or whatever, when we get it. So, yeah, we begin the episode. No cold open, just goes right into the opening credits and the little tagline at the bottom here: "Coming soon to an illegal DVD." Obviously, a play on for the people stealing movies or whatever. So now it's going to be a DVD thing, not taping over things, right? It's just a DVD player.
Yeah, you remember VHS? Oh, my favorite Rugrats is coming on. I'm gonna
Right.
I'm gonna I'm gonna tape it with VHS.
But you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know it was going to be your favorite Rugrats, right? Because
Well,
unless
I'm just
unless you
saying,
had
yeah.
like the little what were those, like the Times book, like the
Oh,
what's
the
TV
TV
guide,
guide, the TV
TV
guide,
guide.
yeah.
If you had like a physical TV guide, did you know what the episode might be? And even then, sometimes they were wrong. Sometimes they didn't actually play the
Yeah,
right thing.
yeah,
So
because the
yeah,
stations who did it could change whatever they want. It's not like
right.
they agreed. It's like, okay, here's your week's TV guide. We're gonna keep up to it. But I think
Yeah,
your
could
thing
change.
to I think it's your grandmother aunt. She taped Beast Wars, right, for you?
No, no, that was a friend of ours. They did that. And my mom
Oh,
did that. Yeah. No, they taped every single episode of Beast Wars, and we could all watch them whenever we could. Because nowadays kids are spoiled with being able to just go online and find them all
yeah,
downloaded
with all
online
your
or
pirating
streaming.
and you
Yeah.
spoiled
Back in
kids.
the day, they used to
Oh,
threaten us for this.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but here we
yeah,
are, right?
yeah,
On an
yeah.
illegal DVD.
Yeah. Excuse me.
So,
Does Mitchell live here? Hi. Oh, I didn't realize you were a little boy.
yeah,
Well, is your mother
you're
and
coming to
father home?
prison.
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
need to talk about this.
Yeah. No longer. So,
Uh,
yeah, so we open on the Planet Express crew, and they are, they're just sitting around the table. I guess they've had a meeting, and we have the professor coming in with an announcement, right? The good news, everyone. And he says that he's coming on disciplinary charges before he realizes that that's not actually good news. So,
Wait, that's not good news.
fun little beginning there. But they do have to return to Mars University. So we got a nice return of, I think, what is his name? Dean Vernon from
Yeah,
what's that episode? Mars
Mars
University,
University.
obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
yeah. So
meet
Dean
Gunther, the
Vernon
monkey,
and
chimpanzee.
Wormstrom makes an appearance, but he doesn't say anything. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that he's on the board there as well. So because of course, like the professor's, what would you call this? It's not his day job. Is it like a side job or something, or is it like just his
Well,
tenure as a professor? He has to teach.
yeah, I'm not sure how it works and stuff like that, but like to be a professor, I think you actually have to like teach, and like he said in that
Like a certain amount of
Mars
time.
University, he teaches the fundamental universe of like the Frankfurter or something like that, which like the
Just
class he
makes it so
teaches.
people
Yeah,
don't take it,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So technically he's a professor, like he's supposed to be teaching, but no one takes his class. So
Right.
I'm pretty sure at this point he'd have tenure because you wouldn't be able to do that if you were a new professor or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Well, he
I,
must
I
he must have a little bit of leeway. I mean, obviously he has a leeway, right? Like at the very beginning of this conversation, because he thinks he's being on disciplinary charges, and he starts
Yeah.
like insulting all of those, saying
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Listen,
yeah,
none of you are safe with me. I know all your dirty
yeah.
secrets," and he starts
Yeah,
naming them all.
yeah. Department of Pool Boy Studies. I love that one because the guy's just like shifty looking. He's like,
That's what
yeah,
Pool Boy,
yeah.
was it Pool Boy Studies? Dean Vernon was actually driving his hover car, not his horse.
And Wernstrom,
and of course Professor Hairpiece or something, so he's actually bald. So they have this whole thing. No, I love that little banter there, because the professor still shows that he's like quite up there, right? Like he's very opinionated and he's very direct with his information. So he's like, I'm not gonna be taken down if you guys are gonna do this to me. I'm gonna take you down with me. So in any case, it turns out though, this is just it's a false thing to bring him in for a surprise birthday party. He's turning 150 years, sorry, quote unquote, 150 years old. And with all that stuff, and all these people are there to gather and cheer for him. And Bender's hosting this little roast / little birthday thing, and we get to see or we get to hear, I guess, a little bit more. So I don't know, what do you think about this? I like the continuity with Zoidberg, because Zoidberg, every time we see Zoidberg in the future, especially with his uncle, he's always talking about how he always wants to be an entertainer. And he wanted to be a song and dance man, all this stuff. So he actually finally gets to do like a stand-up thing, and we actually hear a little bit about that. Do you feel bad for Zoidberg?
Oh, 100%. Like it's just like he got kind of forced into being a doctor. And is that because he's quote unquote a Jewish person, a Jewish crab person? Yeah. Or just, I don't know. I find it funny because he kind of got like, if you want your grandparents to roll around in their graves, you'll become a comedian. No, you got to be a doctor kind of thing. And just,
that's right.
I love it because it's just. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of our lives too. It's like we want to be a big movie star or TV star or something like that, and no, not really. Yeah.
Well, it's funny with Zoidberg as well, because again, as we'll see in the future, like his one of his really close relatives was a famous entertainer. You'd think that they would have tried to like what's that word, like smooth on him or something, and try and get like a whole bunch of information or networking with his uncle so that he could be a movie star or something, but they never did. Maybe it wasn't that close.
It's one of those things of parents say, no, you need to do this, and at a young age you're like, yeah, okay, I'll do that, I'll make my parents proud of me kind of thing. So which I have no idea what my parents had in store for me. I don't think it was a doctor, but it's not what I am now. So
not a train driver.
Not a train, an engineer, yeah.
Well, I will say this, like when he does this thing and he says ladies and germs or whatever, and you have like the little right, like the little joke thing or whatever, and then I did kind of find that funny because it ruins his introduction, and it was kind of a funny joke.
Oh yeah.
But then I feel that awkwardness when he does his actual joke, and like his animation of his mouth is like waiting for like the applause that never comes, and I'm like, oh, poor guy. And he's like, this is the Apollo all over again. So
now you were an MC for a wedding, right?
Was I an MC? No, you know what? That's the only job I've never done at a wedding. Why? How difficult it is?
Yeah, to stand up in all those people and stuff like that. Because like this is a crowd thing, and then like I've never really had to do something like this before.
No, I didn't MC, but I have had to do speeches in the past. And it's nerve wracking for sure if you don't know all these people and you're trying to impress. But this is like, I mean, it's hard to tell whether or not people are going to gauge on your, because some people, especially at birthdays, right? Some people can be very, very, comical, and they want to laugh or whatever at these things. But some people are just like very straight faced, so it's hard to get a good sense of that. You have to really know your audience, and at a place where you don't know anybody, it's very difficult to do. So Zoidberg just fails. Then this is interesting, which again, we're going to touch base on this like a couple of seasons from now. But this is the what is the former crew? The former crew member shows up from Farnsworth's like early. I guess this must have been his ones attacked by the bees. Is this the survivor of that, or is this another one?
Okay, so I think he's had maybe like 6 crews. He's definitely had more than 3. So there was the first original crew, which one of the voice actors was crap! What was that U.S. politician?
Al Gore.
Who's Al Gore?
Al Gore is that's way in the future. That's like behind that. So that's the first crew.
That was his first crew.
Right. Okay.
And then there was also the crew, which I think all 3 career chips fell out of that pocket in the first or second episode of the series when he's like,
Yeah.
oh, good news, I got the career chips.
Yeah. So you guys can join you can be part of my work, right? Yeah. So that I thought that's his previous one. That was the one just before these guys.
Yes.
Right. So that would be up in between his either second or these other crew. So you're saying that this other crew member in the chair that we see in the
different
future
one.
Is a different crew.
Okay, so the only one other crew members, and do you remember the one where they did the commercial for Planet Express? There was one with the 70s guy.
Oh.
Because they had a commercial for it.
That was like an Apple parody or something?
Yeah.
Or was it
no,
another?
No, it was that was, I think that was like the remake when the 70 guys did it.
That's
so
right.
Like they had one, and then it said like here's the pie chart with, and then Hermes makes a joke. But they showed it, and of course said like your package delivery is more important than our crew members' lives. And the guy gives him a package,
like with the bird,
and then the door
or
closes,
whatever?
and then the bird takes him away.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's like the third or the fourth episode. Yeah. Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Yeah. Because that's when they're introduced. I think that's the third episode because they're getting introduced to it. I thought that was just. I don't think that's actually his crew because it's just it's a filming a commercial.
All I'm saying is just that's what I think. Like I don't know.
But in any case, this guy.
If we'll say that's actual footage kind of thing. So it just track record wise, Professor does not have a good life expectancy for his crew. Because he's a
high turnover rate for his crew, which isn't very good. Well, you know what then? Why don't in our own headcanon we could make it that this former crew member in this chair could be the guy that was taken by the bird. Because he's clearly like he can't move. Well, he's in that chair as well, but he's like clearly not working or can't do anything, and he just kind of does the beep thing, which we do find out everybody does in that chair when they use it. But in any case,
it's a foot pedal.
Yeah, but this is kind of funny though because this really shows up Zoidberg. So he does one little beep. Everybody laughs their asses off. It's all good, and Zoidberg's like, oh, I wouldn't want to follow that guy, you know. So he leaves, and then Fry and Leela, I guess, because Leela actually made it, they get to do a video of it, and we get to see a little bit of the professor's life. Yeah. So, like you said earlier, like this is actually quite nice to see his backstory. So
one of them, yeah.
Well, part of it, right? Like the early parts of it. So his birthday is April 9th, 2851. It says in the video, which would put this in the year 3001. Is that correct? Yeah.
3001. Yep.
3001. So that would make sense for the time that this show was coming out 1,000 years after the actual air date, right? So he was born in New York, and he worked for 50 years at Mom's Friendly Robot Company. At the same time, he's also a professor at Mars University, and he's running a delivery company to finance his experiments and his inventions. Is this correct?
Yep.
Okay. Just try to keep it on top of everything. Okay.
But the continuity in Futurama, as we've discussed beforehand, is very thorough. Very thorough.
It's incredible what 150 years can do for a guy, right? Like it makes sense that he wouldn't be with the same job for 100 years, right? He'd probably do it like a normal thing. But then I guess he went to school at Mars University, and he's gone and he's become a professor, and he's taught there. Like obviously, because we've seen the past footage with Wormstrom being one of his students.
Yeah.
So he was doing that full time. And then I guess at some point that's when he left and he joined Mom's Friendly Robot Company, I think. Was after?
Again, it's the whole thing of he probably is like, oh man, teaching and doing this job and maybe the third thing or whatever was too much work. Let's just make this class impossible for anyone to want to take.
Right. So that's just how he does. And it works out up until Fry stupidly takes his class, which keeps him on the planet, right?
Well, he dropped out of it, yeah. But Fry was there.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, he purposely drops out to be a college graduate before.
I think my favorite thing of Leela talking about the professor was like super high speed cars, casinos and everything, hot women. The professor invented them
Designed
all.
Designed them all. From his tiny 1-bedroom apartment in New York. Yeah. And he's like in these really like
overalls.
What would you call like nudie overalls and everything. Yeah.
Like suspenders and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the suspenders. Like the professor clearly was not an active guy. He was more so in his own head, and that's fine. That's exactly who he always was, and we actually see that more confirmed later with his parents and everything. So it's good to see that. However,
Floyd. I'm not Floyd.
That is the one disappointment. I wish I keep on seeing these things. I keep on like looking through it, and I'm looking for like any hint of like his other family, and I never see that. So I hope maybe one day they'll not retcon it, but they'll kind of continue with that. Maybe they'll actually do an episode. But
Who
I mean,
knows?
that would make his brother close to his age too, right? Like he's got to be 160 something years old too by the time that that episode would roll around, right?
Well,
So
apparently Bender killed him somehow, so who knows?
no, I think he turned him away. He turned him away. He's like, oh, some rodeo clown claiming to be the professor's brother came by, and I told him to leave or something. And they're like, oh, blah 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 blah. They're totally distracted by something else. And that's like he's like, oh, okay.
I
He
don't
just
know.
kind of ignores it. But
Just the professor has a rich past and not a lot of it, because you think of how old we are. We're in our early 30s. We got a lot of that's 30 years of history, whether it's fun or not fun, or
well, imagine, but that's
adventurous
what I mean,
or not adventurous. Yeah,
150 years.
5 times
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And not to mention like how he meets Zoidberg and all this kind of stuff. Like there are episodes dedicated to this, right? Yeah. So any case, watching this video, right, makes the professor depressed, and it's all his whole life's work he feels is kind of summed up. So he just doesn't really feel like he's done enough with his life, right? He kind of has this midlife crisis at the age of 150. He's like, I should be doing more with my life. So they go back, but he discovers that what is actually missing is that there's somebody who could take over for him, which starts this whole thing of he leaves and he's going to try and figure out how to choose an heir. And the rest of the crew are trying to figure out who it's going to be. And, you know, they all have their arguments. Fry states that he's
blood is
related,
thicker than water.
Right.
And
So,
I love
blood
this
is thicker than
too,
water,
because Zoidberg's bringing out blood thicker than water. Like it's like he never even thought about it. He's a doctor. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like, oh, Zoidberg's a great doctor for aliens. Too bad you're human.
Right.
So
who's not an alien for those aliens, right? Yeah. Why is he not good enough for them? Well, and then later when, as we talk about it, when the clone actually confronts Zoidberg about this too, this is actually one of my favorite bits. But I think they all have something quite unique about how they could actually be his heir, right? I mean, Hermes notwithstanding, Hermes doesn't really speak much in this. I mean, Amy can kind of take care of him, I guess, is kind of the thing. Like she's been his loyal intern for a long period of time.
Well, one of the reasons that she's been kept around so long too is because she has the same blood type.
That's right. Yeah. Well, also makes sense that, you know, she would be important to him, right? But then, you know, Leela controls like the majority of a lot of his like deliveries and all this kind of stuff. Make sure that she's the responsible one. That makes sense. Fry is indeed his oldest relative, so it makes sense for that. Bender, I guess he doesn't really have much for it, and then Zoidberg is his longest and oldest friend, but and his doctor, right? His personal doctor. So they do have actual credits to what they're talking about. But alas, in the end, the professor decides maybe he won't actually use any of them. He decides to clone himself, and we are introduced to a clone, right? The clone of my own, as the episode is. What's his name? Cubert. Not to be confused with Hubert J. Farnsworth, but Cubert J. Farnsworth, his clone with the squished up nose and the voice that sounds a lot like, you mentioned Rugrats earlier.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure she played
Phil and Dill. Oh, sorry, Lil and Dill. Well, hold on. Oh crap.
Yeah, not Lil and Dill. It's Phil and Lil. You're right. Phil and Lil. Dill is
Dill Pickle. Yeah, Dill Pickle, Tommy Pickle, Stu Pickle, Dee Dee Pickle.
Yeah, the twins.
Drew Pickle, Angelica Pickle.
Wait, does Kubert's voice actress, does she play both?
Yeah, she plays both of them. Yeah,
Bill and Lil,
both the twins from Rugrats. Yeah, she was a staple of voice acting in the 90s.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Oh yeah.
She's been around forever.
Is it Trust McNeil or am I just?
No, not Trust McNeil. Not Trust McNeil. Yeah, sure. Go that one. We can look up for sure. No, she's been a staple for tons and tons of cartoons growing up throughout the 90s and early 2000s. I think she's also been with Matt Groening stuff for a long time, or at least the Futurama. And...
definitely. Yeah. Okay, so the voice actress is oh my god, I'm gonna spell this wrong. Kath Soucie? Oh my god, Kath, and then her last name is Soucie.
Kath Soucie?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, Catherine Elaine Soucie.
Okay. Kath. Yep. I think her last name, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure her last name is Irish. So it has a
So then I
has a unique spelling. Yeah,
mispronounced it.
might be Saoirse.
Saoirse.
Maybe,
Yeah.
But any case, no, she's great, and Qbert is probably. Oh, I mean, I say this a lot because I love this show, but he's a hilarious character. Like when he and Dwight are like best friends and they're hanging out a lot in their episodes, like they're funny. They're really funny characters, and they just make fun of everyone. They just hate on everyone because they're so smart, and especially Qbert. What do you
for
think
anyone
of
who
Qbert?
watched like the Big Bang Theory, they were always like, "Oh, we're so smarter than everyone else." They were always very
but Qbert did it
high on
better
themselves.
because he always got his comeuppance, right?
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
He always got
Yeah.
called out. Like he was
Yeah.
Leela like threatened to beat him up. Bender shocked him. Fry's like made fun of him himself, right? They all get him. They all get him back. What do you think of Qbert as a character, though? Do you think he's a good addition?
I don't know. I feel like they haven't utilized him properly in the last while. Like I think out of like I don't know how many episodes he's been in, but
Like
we'll say
his entire run.
Throughout an entire run. But I want to say less than half. It feels like he was appropriate to have in there. Like I don't hate him by any means, but I just don't know if they've ever utilized him properly. I think obviously this episode was a great introduction and did a good job. And then the one where Bender was on TV, is not allowed on TV. That one was pretty good.
Yeah.
But I can't really think.
I thought Overclocked was okay as well with like he and Fry.
And I can think of a fourth one where him and Dwight did the newspaper one.
Right. Yes. The newspaper.
But I think a few other times that he's been in there, it's felt not awkward, but just not right would be the best way to say it.
Sure. Well, he's definitely like one of those side characters. Sometimes he has like a throwaway line or something, and then he just kind of pops in and out of an episode. You're right. But I am happy that they kept him around. Right?
Oh yeah.
He's indeed the professor's like child technically, right? So he's kept around there, and he's good that he lives there. I like that. I didn't quite mention this as well. Like before he decides to do this, there was this conversation about the near Death Star, which is kind of like the apparent of this episode, like the main focus area of this. Being that, what is it? If you're 160 years old, they just permanently take you.
Yeah.
I'm actually confused with this because as we find out, the professor has been lying. So do they not actually have people registered in their databanks? People have to admit to being 160. So you would have to actually call them to have them take you away. Is that true?
I'm just gonna take it up that the professor's smart and maybe he somehow hacked and faked it or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe he switched identities with his brother and he's actually not.
And he's 10 years older than his brother.
Yeah.
I suppose he could have done
that. This is just a headcanon thing because you brought it up too. It's like, well, how do they know the future? Kind of like, especially Futurama, they know everything, so to speak, right? So it's a very very interesting question because like he could have, hacked it and just changed. It's like, oh, instead of being born in 41, he was born in 51. Or he swapped identities with his brother, or maybe it's an actual thing where the kids are taking care of the parents. It's like, oh God, dad's like 149 or 159. Next year we get to put him away on the nearly Death Star.
Oh, and you know what? Actually, now that you mention that, because there is a conversation with his parents. I mean, again, this is the other episode, but there's another conversation they say about having one of their kids they mistook for him being Floyd, his brother.
Floyd, yeah.
And Hubert had gone to a mental institution. So maybe during the mental institution time, they didn't have track of, like, maybe he was there for 10 years, so they lost track of him in the real world. So that's why they only did that for 10 years. But it sounds based on this, right? So I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me continue, and then we'll get to that point. But basically, Hubert gets revealed. He goes out and he starts basically mocking the entire Planet Express crew. They all don't like him. They think he's a pompous ass, as you mentioned.
He's being smug because he's like, this is my company now. It's like, well, no, not until the professor dies, kind of thing, or whatever. Right.
Which Cuber's like, whatever. But he's like, why do we? Right. Why do we have you, Dr. Zoidberg? Do you even have a medical degree? I lost it in a volcano. And I'm like, this is hilarious. Because this is proving more and more that he does not have actual medical license. But in any case, then makes fun of Bender for being a Bender, right? And then Bender pretends to be Mexican, so he doesn't understand English. And then, or I should say, he pretends not to speak English. He is Mexican. But then we have, and then what does he say? He mocks Leela for only having one eye. Another thing with depth perception,
Yeah,
when she tries to physically hit him. She
and
tries
she
to
misses.
physically hit
And
a
she
child.
misses.
Yeah, and she misses. It's all for a joke, but people, Leela tried to hit someone.
A child. A
A
child.
12-year-old child,
Well, okay.
biologically. Yeah.
Now here's another thought. Just because we like to overthink things about the world of Futurama or something like that.
Yeah.
Is Cubert an actual citizen of the world, or is he just like a secret clone? Because like, is there clones in Futurama? I don't think they've ever touched on that other than Cubert.
There are. In the episode we did with Andrew, Jack
Oh,
Johnson
right.
and John Jackson are technically clones to each other. That's why they say certain things, but they differ on very specific things.
Yeah, very specific things.
But no, cloning is absolutely a thing.
Okay, so that's two instances, Cubert and those two, which were kind of a throwaway gag, right? More or less,
but cloning
right?
does exist, hence why.
Cloning does exist, but like they haven't really touched. Like it's only been those two as far as I can remember. And I love Futurama. I'm most likely wrong at some point here, because why wouldn't they clone other things?
That makes technically they do with the new Comedy Central thing. Remember the professor recloned their bodies with the stem cells, right?
Yeah.
So that was all from that.
Yeah.
Like they had their heads and their skeletons, but he like remade their whole bodies with the stem cells. I guess that's a type of cloning.
I wouldn't say that, but like again, I'm not like a cloning scientist, whatever the actual phrase for that is. So
I don't know. Yeah.
No,
a geneticist. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't even say that either. It would be something to do with cloning, because like you're literally cloning. It's not like you're a geneticist would be like, oh, these are your genes. You have this gene, this gene.
Well,
blah,
cloning
blah, blah.
deals with genetics, though. That's why they.
I understand where you're coming from that, but like I don't know. Like I don't know what the actual term. Let's get Google. Yeah. Is there such thing as a clonologist? No. Okay. Yeah. Or yes. Sure I don't know.
But in any case, that scene. But then a specific one, specifically with Cubert, is actually in the Comedy Central run. Same thing I mentioned, the overclockwise, because remember he and the professor go to prison.
Right, because they're the same person though. They're the same person.
Technically the same person. So he is technically an illegal clone, if they're going to be this, if they're going to have that kind of situation, right? At least with Bender's argument in case. So it was he got them off on technicality of double jeopardy, because there's no way that you can try the same person for the same crime or something
twice. Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly. Twice, right. So I threw that wrench into that idea there, and I would mind you, the writers for the current stuff are not as wonderful and amazing
they're not
as
the same, for sure.
They're not the same.
They're not the greatest.
They're not
writers,
the good ones,
right.
And they're not the math ones from the second reboot. Sorry, the first reboot.
Yeah.
So I would love for them to kind of delve into this, and not stupidly. Obviously, they have to make fun of it somehow, but I don't know how they would do that. But I would love some answers on this, because
well, you're right.
In real world, if we could clone people, for instance, we could just get you could just basically get a new self every time until your brain deteriorated or whatever, right? Oh crap, I got shot in the kidney. Now I needed a new kidney. Oh well, let's just clone it. No biggie, right? Boom, instantly.
Mm-hmm. No, you open up a good conversation for something that they can do within their own world that they don't have to pull from real world situations. They can actually have that kind of idea, and that they can play on it from like current terms, like what does cloning mean? But it could actually touch more about like what does Cubert mean to the fabric of Earth and everything, right? Because like how do they do this? So no, you bring up a good point for it. Anyway, way off topic for cloning for it, but at least we have
good questions, man. These were good questions.
No, that's great. No, I'm happy to do this, because what does that mean for Cubert to be this? Because we also see later with this episode that Cubert does also share not only genetic material with the professor, he shares like philosophical dreams with him. They have like the same dream that figures out how to do these things, right? There's something about that.
I think my favorite joke, like when the professor's showing Cubert all his stuff, like this is the smelloscope, and
yes, right. And the professor shows him all of his inventions and all these kinds of things.
Yeah, my favorite one is the language translator. It translates into some gibberish. Hello, bonjour. Damn gibberish.
Stupid gibberish. Shut up, you.
I love it. Just another poking fun at the French.
And that's another continuity thing, because right in the very, very, very first episode, remember you and I caught this. The French people, when they're doing like the countdown 1,000 years in the future, they say English. They say 7
instead of neuf.
No, instead of sept.
Oh,
neuf is 9.
Neuf is 9. Yeah. Okay. For the viewers, last time I took French was over 20 years ago. So yeah, I live in Western Canada.
You call yourself Canadian.
We don't really do French out here. Yeah. We make fun of the French, but that's just to make fun of them. But
Yes.
I love
So
making fun of the French, and the French love making fun of the French, so I think it's okay.
everything makes fun of everything basically, especially with this. But when we have it, yeah, he does the smelloscope, the translator, right? When that's for the callback. And everything seems impossible to Cubert. And the main thing that the professor wants to show him are his engines, which are, as he's described, the dark matter engines, which we learn later about dark matter and everything. There's so much to build from in this episode. There's so much that comes from these conversations. Um, and Cubert disappoints the professor by saying like they clearly like everything is nonsensical to me. How does this work? How can we possibly be faster than the speed of light? How can you raise the speed of
Right.
light?
Yes.
All this stuff. Like, how can you do this? 200% energy efficiency? Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Any case, they go to Elzar's, a nice classic restaurant. I'm trying to remember. Have we seen Elzar yet? Before?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Did we do the 30% Iron Chef or whatever it
No,
was?
no. That's way later in the future, man.
Yeah, oh yeah, season 4. My bad.
Come on.
I swear we have though. I think
we have seen Elzar.
Yeah.
But in any case, he's there, and Bender's like head over heels for him. He loves Elzar because he likes to cook and everything. And
Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna say this is probably the first time we see him then.
Okay, but Elzar is introduced, and also played by John DiMaggio. So there's a fun little thing there.
And he's a Neptunian.
He's a Neptunian. That's right.
Neptunian.
Yeah, his four arms and his purple body and everything. And Cubert here admits to the professor that he doesn't want to be a scientist, right? Breaks the professor's heart, and he doesn't know what to do now that his own heir is kind of done with him. We then cut over to the professor, and he is making a video, I'll call it, or a hologram.
A message.
You know,
he's leaving a message.
Hologram message for his crew, saying that he's indeed not 150, he's 160 years old. He's going to be, and he's alerted the what are they called? The Sunset Squad robots to come and pick him up, bring him to the near Death Star, which nobody knows where it exists because, old people. So they don't
they all forget.
And yeah,
I do like the fact that the robot that picks him up looks like the Grim Reaper for some reason.
It's a Grim Reaper robot. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, death is coming for him. Yep.
Yeah, there's no point to make it a Grim Reaper, but just why not? Let's make it the Grim Reaper.
It could be like the nicest looking robot. I think that one actually would have been funnier. It's like, hi, I'm here to pick you up. But no, this is good. I also want to say the musical score for that scene when he's saying goodbye, like, oh, goodbye, cruel world, and all this stuff before he gets like bonked on the head and taken away. I really like that music. I thought it was actually really, really creepy. It's like science fiction-y creepy. Like it has like that robot feel to it or that electronic feel to it. So I really like that. The synth to it. Yeah. So crew find the video. They figure out the professor's gone, all that fun stuff. And they decide to go rescue him. So Fry, Leela Zoidberg, and
there's also a joke too here because Bender was making fun of the professor, and then the professor kind of like predicts. It's like, I assume Bender said something funny, which is why I taped over his soap opera. You bastard! Right. So right there again, because this was taping, 2001, yep. Taping
is a thing.
Taping is a thing, guys.
Yep. No longer. Well, people can still do it. You can still do it. It's not going to be done very often anymore.
Oh yeah. Where would you think you could go find a tape cassette?
Oh God, like a thrift shop or a pawn shop of some sort, like people who've gotten rid of their boxes of them. I mean, you can still order them online.
Yeah,
you can
they're still being made, but the thing is, like, instead of like 1,000 an hour or 1,000 a minute, whatever, it's like maybe 5 a day.
Like who still has a VCR to play these things, right? Like who actually has one? Most people, I would say, probably don't have.
No, most people don't. I'm pretty sure like our generation's parents would still have one.
If they didn't get rid of them already, right?
Exactly. So, yeah, it depends. Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke. Fry, Leela, Bender, and Cubert go, not Zoidberg. Zoidberg stays out of this one, but they go and do this. And the way that they find him is using the smelloscope, which Cubert tries to prove is impossible because of particles and odors and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but smell doesn't travel through space,
right? And then that's when Bender like shocks him, right? So he gets his comeuppance a little bit. And then they use the smelloscope. They somehow attach it to the ship in a very small amount of time. And then they smell through the universe. And they finally find the near Death Star, right? I mean, you can, even if you've never seen this show, but you've seen Star Wars, and there is so much Star Wars imagery in this episode, and so many sounds from this episode, that there is it's a ball in the sky with like spikes in it just to make it that much different from the actual Death Star from Star Wars. But they go there, the new Death Star, or the near Death Star rather, and they get in there, and we're introduced to the guards, right? Those yellow robots. One of them has like the little arm guard to let people in and out, like his little like a traffic
railway
thing.
guard. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one has like arms to type in on the computer or whatever, and they're talking and all this kind of stuff. Like, who is this guy? And he's like, oh, this is Hubert Farnsworth. He's like, how did he get out? Nobody escapes from here. He's like, we're gonna have to prove this is him. And then they had taken a whole bunch of sample from Hubert.
Like a 2 liter vial of blood. It's like, oh, we only needed like 1 drop. It's like,
keep the change. It's all good. Yeah. So yeah, they decide they get past the guards. They take this little hover vehicle thing so Fry is pretending to be Qbert is his hump, I guess, like a little thing in his back.
Talking hump syndrome.
Talking hump syndrome, right? THS. And Leela and Bender are like the guards bringing him in. Somehow Leela passes off as a robot.
They're dressed up like Grim Reapers themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Make that as you will. And they get into this little hover car and they go into this. Geez, I don't even know how to describe this. Like a massive. You know what it kind of reminded me of is the Robot Planet from.
Well, it's just it's all like apartments of old people.
But they're not even apartments; they're drawers.
Yeah,
like it's just towers and towers of drawers.
The
and all
morgue
this. Yeah.
Crossed with like an unending apartment complex.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. A morgue as an apartment complex, and it's massive. So many things. There's a fun little Easter egg. Did you catch the Easter egg with Maple Street?
No.
We see the Maple Street sign. So right next to Maple Street, it says Elm Street. Do you know what Elm Street is?
From the Freddy Krueger or whatever, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it's Freddy Krueger. Yeah. So it's a Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there something with Maple Street in general, or is that just like?
No, Maple and Elm are both trees.
Yeah.
So it has like this double thing of just Maple just being the tree thing, and Elm Street I think is just like the joke of it. But yeah, they find the professor. Now I paused it just because I was curious, but like there's 2 signs on 2 drawers right before they get to Professor Farnsworth's area, and it says Ava Porter and Eloise Porter. Do you know these people?
Eloise Porter sounds familiar, but I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that she's probably some scientific person, or maybe she's like a relative of someone working on the show.
Okay. I mean, isn't that kind of gruesome then to put, because there's 2 Porters. There's an Ava Porter and an Eloise Porter. So it's like 2 people with the same name, and they passed away. But they're both from like early ages or something. I'm not sure, but they're too similar, I think, to be not somebody important, maybe, because they're very, very blink and you miss it type of situations, unless you freeze it.
It's just a little gag for someone like a lot being an animator and stuff like that, and people who put stuff in. A lot of it's just little like nods to like this person worked on the show kind of thing. Like one of the best well-known Pixar ones. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's like A113, and that's because that's where those people took a class at Cal Arts.
Yeah. Those are well documented for that. No, that makes it. Those are Easter eggs, but this is like the Elm Street one is an Easter egg as well. But this is just like very, very specific because they're right next to each other, but they're so quick that unless you paused it during live television, there's no way you could have seen that. So it's just kind of an interesting. I don't know if they're placeholders or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So just from a quick Google, and this is from Reddit, so take it as you will. Just someone found it from years ago and claims that Ava Porter and her sister Eloise is that Ava's brother-in-law worked on the show, so they're probably like a tight family, and just the background artist or something put their name on there because it's just one of those things. Like that's why they have that like none of these at the end like disclaimer alert. None of these are supposed to be real people's names. They're just random
just there,
names.
Right? Yeah.
So this is just probably someone's like, oh, I had dinner with Ava and Eloise Porter last night. Oh, let's put their name there. No biggie.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good though. It's nice. It's nice to be in there, albeit that it's in a death place.
Well, all it says is just that their death is soon. Yeah. Honestly, it could have been like mother and daughter, or like the wife and daughter of someone. I don't know.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just that more than likely it's just like a little like nod from someone working on the show. It's their family member or friends or something like that. Because I looked up Eloise and there's no like Wikipedia article or anything. So
it must be somebody very, very important to the person who made it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yep. Yeah. So they find the professor's drawer, who's after Eloise Porter, 715 Maple Drive or something, and they get there, and Leela says like, oh, we have to pull him out very slowly, but then the robots that are gonna arrest them show up, so she just yanks him out, and he's, I guess, fine. Right?
Yeah, I love
so they
that.
put him into this, and this is actually quite good. I mean, the animation style is really, really good. I think it's using that 3D art style
Yeah.
that they were using at the time, right?
That was relatively new for back then,
Yeah.
and it was mostly used with very solid things. Like you look at the robots, they look a little awkward, but you look at the buildings and stuff like that, it fits right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're flying through there, chasing ensues, and I think there was it may have been just me like listening a little too closely. Maybe I just thought it was, but I'm pretty sure there was a little sound effect from a TIE fighter from Star Wars in there too. So there's another Star Wars reminiscent thing. And they end up going. And as they're flying off, the Qbert, of course, is still on Fry's back, pretending to be the hum. So he's like, oh my God, we're not going to make it because there's the door shutting. And then Fry ducks down and knocks Qbert off. So
told you we wouldn't fit, but like you made it
Qbert
through.
passes out.
You made it through.
So they drag the professor and his clone onto the ship. They try getting off, and they get shot at. Knocks out the engines. Engine falls, and they try to wake up the professor, but of course, professor's still unconscious. So Qbert wakes up, having had a dream that the professor had alluded to earlier in the episode about how the engines worked. And as much as I don't fully understand or don't believe the kind of science that they talk about, but the way that he describes it, it's like, oh no, we don't fly through the universe. The engines move the universe around the ship. So every time you see the ship, it's not moving. It's always in the same place. It's just the universe around it is being moved around. I thought that was actually really cool.
There have to be some very pretty powerful engines and stuff like that, though. But well, like, I think it's more of a joke, because I think it's a joke from, well, maybe it's not from Star Trek, but because I just recently watched the J.J. Abrams one. The whole thing was that the universe was moving, not the thing.
Sure. Well, I'll touch base on this in a second once we finish up. But they get the engine running, they fly off, and then the Qbert decides that he wants to actually be a scientist. He's had the epiphany, right? And they finish off with like a little joke about how the professor's feeling spry again and everything, and everyone's back to normal basically. But you know what? The professor making an engine that goes through or has the universe go around it is actually not that far fetched. Because remember in 2D, is it called 2D Backdrop or something? But like one of the Comedy Central runs where the professor becomes the professor, like the street racer.
Yeah.
And he does that 2D dimensional drift or four dimensional drift or something, like flows through time.
Drift, yeah.
I don't think this is out of his wheelhouse. I think they just kind of like build upon the ability that the professor's been working with, like aerodynamics and physics and like astrophysics all this time.
The first reboot was a lot more mathematical kind of humor than the original series. So I'm pretty sure that there was a lot more sciencey thought and math thought for those ones. I'm pretty sure there's probably some equation and theory.
It fits the professor's narrative though, right? Like it fits his character to be able to do this. So I don't disbelieve, especially for all of his like inventions that he's made as well. I don't disbelieve that he's messed with time and the physics of time manipulation and everything. So, or space manipulation. I definitely think that that's possible in his mindset. But that would conclude us here with a clone of my own. Your thoughts? Favorite character, scene, or MVP, I should say, in your scene?
I don't know. I don't really have one for this one. Probably the professor, just because it's mostly his episode, and also my favorite joke is obviously the translation machine. It only translates into gibberish. Bonjour.
Shut up, stupid gibberish, right? Okay. I also put the professor. I think, because it is his episode. Really, yours isn't like Zoidberg for his like small little witty comebacks here and there, like Lost in the Volcano and
I do like that
Apollo
joke,
all over again.
But they also pull back later on in different ones, because like the whole thing, like what's your I have a doctorate in art history. That's why I'm a doctor.
I love that. I wish that was actually canon, but that would make so much sense for it. But I'm pretty sure that was the
first reboot again. Yeah,
that was a long time ago, or that was a little bit ways in the future. But I enjoy. I mean, there's so much Star Wars imagery in this one. So like even the holographic messaging thing that the professor uses, that's very reminiscent to the R2D2 thing, like with Princess
Leia. Help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Yeah.
In fact, I'm pretty sure Professor even does a little like crouch down and pushes the button thing. If you're watching it as he turns off, it's very reminiscent to Leia doing it. Like, it's so well done. The near Death Star, obviously. And then yeah, like the little sound effect with the TIE fighter and everything. I'm almost positive that's part of it. And yeah, no, I overall I think this episode's quite funny. Not my favorite, but my favorite of the episodes is going to be coming next time, so that'll be one to sit for. The Deep South, episode 16. So with that, I guess thank you so much, Mitchell, for joining me, and
no problem.
Yeah, we'll talk to you next time.
Yes.